Can you hear me? Oh, I can see myself. Can you see me? I didn't realize this old thing had a camera. I'm not sure. Hold up. I can't. Are you talking, Dr. Branch? Because I cannot hear you. Hey, Ellie. Hey, can you talk really quick? See if it works. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Ah, hold up. There's something wrong with the audio.
No.
There's something wrong with the audio on here. Let's see. How can we configure this?
Is
Is the volume up?
on you? Is
Yeah,
that
okay.
my laptop?
Am I voluming up anything? What about now? No? Okay. And this is why.
There you go. Okay, hi everyone. I'm Allie McGarrell. I'm a second year MACC program student and vice president of our CSI Alpha Iota Upsilon chapter. I have the privilege of introducing our speaker, Dr. Jason Branch, tonight. I've had Dr. Branch as a teacher for a couple of my courses, and he's also my faculty supervisor for practicum and internship. Dr. Branch is honestly one of my favorite professors because of how engaged he is with his students. His approach is unique, inspiring, and accessible. I just wanted to read some highlights from his bio. Dr. Jason Branch has over 20 years of experience in the mental health and counseling profession. He's worked in higher education, community and agency mental health centers, city government, and substance abuse treatment facilities. Dr. Branch is the founder and CEO of J. Branch and Associates, a virtual private practice that provides therapy services in Georgia, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. Dr. Branch's professional and scholarly work focuses on Black male experiences, mentoring, cultural awareness, and increasing the practice of self-care for helping professionals. I know you guys are in for a treat tonight, so please welcome Dr. Jason Branch.
Thank you, Allie. Thanks for the warm introduction. Thank you all for being here. I'm excited, and y'all don't even know what's about to happen. I was sharing this before we got online. I'm finna hit y'all on the head with a honey bun. That means it's gonna be soft, but it's still assault. So we're gonna have some fun. This is very interactive, so feel free to jump in the chat as needed, as necessary. Hop in if you got questions or things that come up. This is very interactive. And you're going to need pen and paper. So if you got pen and paper, crayon, highlighter, it doesn't matter. As long as you can write, because we're going to do an assessment on self-care as well. So let's dive in. Let's dive in. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to jump into it. All right, just checking. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Okay. All right. We ready. Okay, so let's dive in. Enhancing self-care practices by integrating the ESPM model for self-care. So I want to explain a bit before we dive in. And the explanation of the ESPM model for self-care is a system that I designed over a decade ago. Now, I decided to design this model because I experienced compassion fatigue and burnout myself. So sometimes our lived experiences propel us to do things that enhances the profession as a whole. So I hope that what I've been able to create, it's helped me. My hope is that it'll be able to help you as well. So how it started, story time, story time. And part of the story is I was working in mental health and wellness in an addictions or substance abuse treatment center, residential. And this was early in my career. And I had the same mentality that many of us have, the Superman mentality that I can save the world. So I believe that I can save every client in there that's dealing with addiction or in recovery. And so I gave my all. So I would go to work early, I would stay later, would stay after time, and I'm constantly giving and pouring out. However, I'm constantly giving and pouring out to people who are constantly taking. I want to receive. I need to get as much as I can. So people were that was an active addiction. We're constantly taking. That's just part of active addiction. I didn't recognize that. I didn't know that. So imagine constantly pouring out and you're working with clients who are constantly taking. Eventually, the balance went off. And as that balance shifted for me, I decided this isn't the work for me. It's time for me to go. But just like an addict, I was an addict too. And my addiction was trying to save the world. My addiction was trying to help. My addiction was, I can do it. I can save them. I can change them. Not recognizing that the only person that you can control or change is yourself. So when I finally decided, okay, I'm done. This is too much. I'm going to quit. January 1 came, and I was like, okay, I'm going to quit. This is the year. January 1 came and went. Then February came and went, and I stayed. And then I was like, I'm not going to turn a certain age, and my birthday is in July. I'm not going to turn this age and still be at this site. So I'm going to leave. July came and went. And this went on for years until I got to my breaking point. And the breaking point was I was experiencing depression and anxiety. I went and saw a psychiatrist and got on medication myself. Even as a licensed therapist in private practice and doing this, I was dealing with my own mental health issues and didn't even know it. Finally, after my breaking point, I recognized that I'm a lot more important and valuable in this process than me trying to save everyone else. And what I recognized is I was pouring from an empty cup, which many of us do the same thing and we don't even know it. So I poured until I had nothing left. And when I had nothing left, that's when I finally decided to leave. And I left the profession completely. And I decided, okay, what is it that I can do in life that's completely different than what I'm doing? So instead of encouraging people to not drink, I did the complete opposite by encouraging people to drink. What that means, I went and got a license to become a bartender. So I did the complete opposite. I became a bartender. So I got a license. I'm a licensed mixologist and a licensed professional counselor. True story. I left the profession to take care of me. So I did the complete opposite. So I traveled. I went to a bartending school. And the first job after bartending school was at a country club, one of the wealthiest country clubs in the state of Alabama. And nobody knew. I infiltrated that space. And being a person of color, specifically a Black male, there were no Black people that were members of this country club. No people of color that were members of this country club. They were all people of color were in the service industry. They were doing the work. So I was able to infiltrate this environment and learn a lot about people, places, and things, and about myself. And through that, I recognized, number one, I made a lot more money bartending than I did as a licensed therapist. Number two, I needed a break from the profession in order for me to reconnect with myself. And that's exactly what happened. I reconnected with me, learned about my emotional, spiritual, physical, and mental health and wellness. And that's how the ESPM model for self-care was established. That was over a decade ago. And here we are to this day. I haven't mastered it yet, but I'm better at it now than I've ever been. And now I want to share that with you all. So that's the why. What we're talking about today, compassion fatigue and trauma, reconsidering therapy, the Superman or Superwoman or Superperson mentality. I'm going to use Superman for the reference, but it could be Superman, Superwoman, Superperson. A self-care and assessment. So that's why you need the pen and paper. We're going to assess where you are and determine with planning where you want to go. The last is protecting your peace and protecting your investment. So I want you to begin looking at yourself as an investment. And if I'm looking at me as an investment, I navigate the world differently based off of the value that I have of self. Okay, so y'all ready to rock and roll? I'm talking to myself. I said, are y'all ready to rock and roll?
Yeah.
Thank you, Garth.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I know Garth got me. If nobody else got me, I know Garth got me. Thank you, Garth. So we finna dive in. Thanks for the love. I love the interaction. I appreciate the interaction. So compassion fatigue is characterized by a gradual lessening of compassion over time, resulting from a combination of burnout and secondary trauma stress related to vicarious traumatization from repeated exposure to traumatic material. What's traumatic material? The job that we do. So the job that we do day in and day out, whether you're in a practicum internship, whether you're in the profession, whether you're licensed, no matter the case, that compassion fatigue is us caring so much that we stop caring. That's exactly what happened to me. I cared so much, I didn't care anymore because the clients that I was working with were doing the best they could with what they had. And I was doing the same. And that's how compassion fatigue happens. We don't even recognize it. We're constantly giving and pouring out and not getting anything in return. Part of the reason that we're not getting anything in return is because of our expectation. The expectation is if I'm doing this for this client, then they're going to change their lives and that makes me better. That's not how it works. My job is to do the best I can with what I have, give what I have with no expectation, but that's hard to do because we're human. And human beings, as you know, will always do human things. So helping professionals take in some level of their client's pain. For example, just doing a session alone can contribute to compassion fatigue. Just the work that we do, facilitating sessions, listening to stories, collecting data as a part of the effort to intervene and identify issues. So just the work of us pinpointing things that's going on and noticing patterns and changes, that's work. So we're intentional about the work that we do to gain information about our clients, which impacts us. So hearing these stories, especially if I'm empathic, I may be carrying the load or carrying the weight of my clients. So for many of you working with clients now, especially my salamanders, we're going to talk about it soon. The salamanders, a lot of you take your work home. So for some of y'all, your client is sitting with you on the couch right now. Even though they're not there, they're there. Because we carry the load, we carry the weight. Providing treatment services with kindness and empathy, which is a skill set. So we're using kindness and empathy no matter what the client is bringing to us. We're trying to be kind. We're trying to be empathetic to meet them where they are. And that's hard for many of us because kindness and empathy is a skill set that we learn. Some people have it, some people don't, but it's something that we develop over time. Now, my house. This is your house based off of where you were or where you are right now. I feel as though there are three parallels of all of us, who we were, who we are, who we're becoming. Those three parallels will remain with you from birth until death. So how I look at those three parallels, I look at everything in threes, is our house. So you as a person is a house. All of us have these three layers of our house. The first layer of the house is the attic. This is where we spend the most time. The attic is nice. I mean, it's pristine. You got a California king size bed in there. You got artwork all over the walls, Picasso to Basquiat. You got a nice little bar in there. I mean, it's really nice. You got snacks, food, TV, everything. And the reality is the attic is so nice because, and we spend the most time there because the attic represents our head or our mind. We spend more time in our head than we do in reality. I just want to talk about facts. Second layer, the living room. The living room is huge as well. It's a big couch in there, and you sit on that couch, usually with your shoes and socks off, rubbing your feet together, watching your favorite movie or television show. It's where you can be present. It's where you are your most authentic. But a lot of people don't have access to that space. And the third level, the bottom level is the basement, which many of us don't go to the basement. It's locked up. There's a padlock on the front door. It's dark. It's moldy. It's wet. It's so many things down there that we left because of the trauma of the experiences that we've had growing up throughout life. We throw that stuff in the basement, lock it up, and never go down again. And to me, the basement is where the magic happens. In order for us to be as authentic as possible, is putting all three of those layers together, which is very difficult to do. So understand, everything that we're going to talk about today is going to relate to the attic, the living room, the basement. We on the same page? Make sense? Everybody good? Okay, yes. Cool. Thank you, Ashley. Rocking with me. Rocking with me. All right. So now we're finna go to the basement. Told y'all, I already gave you a warning. Now we finna go there. So let's go to the basement. The basement is part of our lived experiences. And every person on this call that's here, directly or indirectly, we've been affiliated with trauma. We've experienced trauma to some capacity, whether directly or indirectly. Trauma is the response to a deeply distressing or disturbing event that overwhelms an individual's ability to cope, causes feelings of helplessness, diminishes their sense of self, and their ability to feel a full range of emotions and experiences. If you are a human being, which all of you are, unless there's an AI bot here, hey, AI bot, we all experience this to some level. So I'm curious, what would you say are some examples of some professional trauma? We got personal and professional trauma. What's some examples of professional trauma? Well, let's go outside first and then work within. So anyone, what are some examples?
Death.
All day. Yes, death. Death. The loss of a client. That could happen. What else?
Death of a colleague.
Death of a colleague. Absolutely. That can happen as well. What else?
Loss of a job.
Loss of a job. Absolutely. I'll take one more. Really? Like that's all y'all gonna give me?
Could it be like
Let-
trauma?
Say again?
Like secondhand trauma from like our client stories.
Yes, client story, trauma from client story. Thank you. So that's professional trauma. What are some examples of personal trauma? And this doesn't have to be yours. This could be something you heard of. This could be something you know about. So what's an example of personal trauma?
Divorce.
Yes. What else?
Natural disaster.
Natural disasters. We just experienced a natural disaster. We are slowly out of this pandemic. That was traumatic for everybody here. That's what I mean by directly or indirectly, we're impacted by trauma. What else?
Immigrating from one
Violence.
country to another.
Let's try that one more time. I heard like 3 people. Now I hear nobody.
Immigrating from one country to another.
Yes, immigrating from one country to another. That can be a traumatic experience. What else?
Mass
Look.
shooting.
Mass shooting. Absolutely. Odette.
Loss of a pet.
Loss of a pet. Absolutely. Absolutely. Those could be examples of personal trauma. Also, addiction, abuse, sexual assault, homelessness, financial issues, literacy. All of these things could be considered personal and professional trauma. Let's go a little bit further. Trauma in the workforce. Okay. So in the workplace, I want you to think about as a student, you experience trauma as well. As a professional, you experience trauma. So that workplace trauma occurs when employees and students experience trauma at work or school. This can be one-time traumatic event, such as a workplace accident, or it could be something that's prolonged. An example could be a client dying by suicide. It's also the ongoing stressful event, such as unrealistic expectations, being overworked and underpaid or not paid at all, unhealthy colleagues, classmates, or an abusive supervisor, partner, or professor. That's traumatic. And many of us have experienced it or currently experiencing it, and we're doing the best we can with what we have. But how does it happen and why does it happen? Because a lot of people haven't done the work on themselves. Why not? Because I don't spend time in the basement. It's too hard. So therefore, I stay in the living room and I stay in the attic. But a lot of trauma happens in the living room, not in the attic or the basement. Those are the results. So hurt people, hurt helping professionals, hurt other helping professionals. And also hurt helping professionals hurt themselves. These are facts. Here's an example of us hurting us. This picture speaks volumes to me. I'm just curious to know, what does it say to you? Anybody?
It's an empty cup.
An empty cup. What else do you see?
Well, it looks like they might be like at a coffee shop.
Maybe at a coffee shop. I'll take it. The reality is whatever you say works. It's just a picture. It's whatever you perceive it to be. And the empty cup I love because many of us, if not all, is usually pouring from an empty cup. We don't even know how much we are or not taking care of ourselves if we're not aware of who we are and what we're doing. So the empty cup represents us being a vessel, but we're empty. We don't have anything left. Also with the phone, our phone oftentimes serves as a coping mechanism. Even though it's face down, it's still out. Ooh. And then in the other chair, there's a bag. We all carrying our baggage. And it goes everywhere that we go. So not only am I carrying the loads of the client, I'm carrying the loads of baggage that's in the basement that I still carry around because I haven't found what it takes to let it go. That's us. And one way that I found to kind of describe who we are, the lack of awareness, the lack of going to that basement, the lack of doing the work, as humans, we're very vulnerable. And that vulnerability causes us to be salamanders. So you may ask, what's a salamander? How dare you call me a salamander? Hey, salamanders. Everybody's on this call as a salamander because I'm going to describe what a salamander is, and I'm sure you can relate to it. Salamanders are soft, squishy, penetrable. Everything sticks. They take their work home. They work too late. They go to work early. They're concerned about everything, everyone, and everything. They constantly apologize for being exactly who they are. Does this sound like you? Pretty sure it does, because that's what salamanders do. A salamander is like a turtle that's left its shell. You just out here naked and afraid, and I ain't talking about a TV show. So So to put all of these ideas about a salamander together, there are 4 P's of salamander life. 4 P's. So if you don't even know or recognize your salamander yet, I want to break it down to let you see you, if this is you. So salamanders, one of the first things that they do, salamander, as a recovering perfectionist, I used to be a salamander myself. As a recovering perfectionist, I've learned that perfectionism doesn't work. Most salamanders are perfectionists. They work towards being perfect, which doesn't exist when it comes to being human. That perfectionist mindset is a very black and white mentality. Either I'm right or I'm wrong. Either I'm great or I'm horrible. Either I'm taking care of myself or I'm not. Either I'm going to the gym or I'm the worst person in the world. Either I got an A or I got an F. It's not as black and white as we make it, but that perfectionist mentality is what keeps us stuck. That's the salamander. That might not be you. It may be the second P. The second P is perception. Your perception is based off of your reality, your lived experience to be who you are right now. For example, imagine an empire, right? Your empire is a building with 20 floors, right? So with this building with 20 floors, all the magic that happens or that all the things that we want in life is on the rooftop of those 20 stories. However, in order to get to the rooftop, I have to go through every floor. Some of us get stuck at the 3rd floor, some at the 4th floor, 2nd floor. Some of us don't even go up. We just stay where we are, which is your perception. So if I'm on the 3rd floor, I have a certain perspective that is only goes to the 3rd floor. If I'm on the 10th floor, 11th floor, 12th floor, I have a different perspective, which means I see life differently. Salamanders usually see things on a very low level because what they believe, they're convicted by. Like it has to be, especially if I'm a perfectionist. Let's go a little bit deeper. Number 3, salamanders are not patient. They want it done yesterday. They want it to happen yesterday. Why hasn't it happened yet? Why am I not this? Why am I not that? Why didn't this happen or that happen? They can't be present because they're so connected to the lack of patience, which leads to the fourth P, which is present. Salamanders are present. They live in the past or the future. Does this sound like you? Hey, salamander, I tried to warn you and let you know who you once were, but now you know for sure who you are, which is okay. Because salamanders live a life of that Superman, Superwoman, Superperson mentality, the belief that I can save the world. It's a very flawed belief that hurts us. But if I can't see anything beyond black and white, I can't live in the gray. I'm going to continue to do the same thing, expecting different results. Does this sound familiar? Thank y'all. I see the head nods. I see y'all, which is okay. You came to the right place. I got some help for you. But before we dive into the help piece, I want you to be willing to help yourself. And how do I help myself? I have to reconsider therapy. Let's break this down. For me, I'm a black male therapist who also has a therapist. That is as unique as a black unicorn with a gold horn. That's me all day long. That's me all day long. And for many of us, even working towards becoming a therapist or being a student, we've never experienced therapy. How dare us? Even as a professional with a license and everything else in between, we still don't go to therapy because we don't have to. I just want to talk about us. But I want to challenge you all to reconsider therapy. Therapy is a form of treatment aimed at relieving emotional distress and mental health concerns. Therapy is provided by and for a variety of trained professionals, such as school counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists, licensed counselors, students, licensed social worker, all helping professionals and students can benefit from therapy. Therapy encourages you to step outside your comfort zone, challenge your beliefs and behaviors, and assist you with creating and maintaining healthy balance in your life. So if you're in therapy now, you've been in therapy for years, but you're not working, you're not growing, you're having a good time kikiing with your therapist, you're paying for a friend. Therapy is hard. And if it's easy, that means you've outgrown your therapist, but it's too comfortable to leave. That's what I mean by reconsidering. And if you're not in therapy at all, you want to reconsider what makes me not be in therapy, because therapy to me, I equate to going to the gym. It enhances our physical health. Therapy enhances our mental health. But how can I enhance my mental health if I don't consider or reconsider therapy? So if I've never experienced therapy, here is your opportunity to try therapy. And my belief is therapy is a way to go in that basement and do the work. When I think about the work in the basement, imagine going down your basement, number one, taking our lock off, going down your basement, and it's a chair at the bottom of the basement because it's completely dark. And there's a spotlight looking on you where you can look at yourself, who you were, who you are, who you're becoming. My belief is as you work on you, you find out who you are and who you are not, and you become the best version of you, you can move away from being a salamander and you can transform into a gator. Ooh! Your boy a gator. I'm a gator. 20 years of experience in this profession. I am a gator because I've been doing it so long. I found what works for me and what doesn't. I haven't experienced compassion fatigue and burnout in over a decade since the first time I experienced it. It hasn't happened again. Why? Because I'm a gator. The difference between a salamander and a gator, there's scales on their back. They're armored up and protected, which means I don't allow a lot of things to bother me or to penetrate because I got those gator scales. Now, the beauty of a gator, their underbelly is penetrable and it's vulnerable, but no one has access to that unless they want you to have access. So a gator does life completely different than a salamander. My challenge to you all, how can I work towards becoming a gator? So what a gator does, there's 5 C's of gator life. There's not 4 because gators are extra. So we got to have 5. So instead of trying to be perfect, gators are consistent. They just keep showing up every day, doing the best they can with what they have. They just show up. They're not trying to be perfect. They moved away from perfection. They found a way to be human. Second, gators, their perspective is open because they're curious about every floor that's available. I wonder what's on the 20th floor. I wonder what's on the 5th floor, 3rd floor, 5th floor. I wonder what's there. Salamanders, they get on the floor, they get stuck. There's nothing else but the floor that I'm on. So they're curious. They want to know more. They ask questions. They're inquisitive. They take risks. They find out what's out there. Number 3, gators are creative. They spend a lot of time in the living room. The living room is your most creative space because it's your most authentic space. I want to go somewhere real quick. If you think about anything that we have access to, anything that you see that's tangible around you, a gator created it. Ooh! From the laptop to the pen in your hand to the paper you have, somebody created it, which means they have to be courageous, curious, and consistent in order to create what we get the benefit. That's creativity at its finest. Number 4, gators are courageous. They take risks. They stop at nothing. They're willing to go the distance to do whatever they choose. The last thing I love about a gator is something salamanders never do. Gators celebrate themselves before, during, and after whatever it is that they're dealing with. Salamanders celebrate at the end, graduation. They celebrate once they get certified. They graduate once they get licensed. Gators graduate before, during, and after. Imagine a little gator with a party hat on. That's me, 7 days a week. I got me a party hat on because I'm celebrating the victories, even in the middle of the storm. So for me, growing up, my grandmother would always say, we're either in the middle of a storm, we just got out of a storm, or we're preparing for one. Gators know that, and they celebrate all aspects of it. Now, if you notice, there's a difference. If you even look at the salamander, you look at the gator, you notice some differences. What are some of the differences you noticed so far? Anybody? Nobody? Nobody sees differences? Okay, I'm gonna help y'all. Y'all getting real quiet. I guess we're getting too real. Oh, don't worry about it. We moving. Ain't got time. We moving. I need y'all to get it. I need you to be a gator. Jump in. Don't be fearless. I'm asking questions. Be fearless. It's okay. I got you though. The difference, if you notice, the gator is there, arms folded, mouth closed. You see the teeth, which lets you know I ain't here to play. I ain't got to say nothing. As a gator, you see me. The difference, if you look at the salamander, mouth wide open with no teeth. Salamanders talk the most shit with no teeth. Oh, I do cuss, by the way. No teeth, talking the most. So therefore, if I'm a gator, I don't have to say a lot. Who I am is enough. But many of us struggle with those two differences because of our beliefs. You're entitled to them. However, many beliefs that you hold on to hold you back from living a life of a gator. Now, this is the most math we're going to do. I'm a licensed therapist. Y'all know we don't do a lot of math. I can't say we, me. I don't do a lot of math, okay? But this is the most math we're going to do. These two equations, write it down, write it down. The first equation I want you to write down, 2 + 2 = 5. You see it, write it. Thank y'all for participating. I see you. Thank you, Barbara. I see you working. I see you over there. Next equation. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Opportunity for Gators to step up. Curious, what's the difference between these two equations? Anybody? What's the difference?
One is wrong and one is right.
Ooh, wee! Based off of your beliefs, you're absolutely right. Based off of your beliefs. One is wrong and one is right. For me, I want to challenge that belief because what's right and what's wrong is salamander talk. Ooh, let's go. Because it's only one option. It's only one option. Either I'm right or I'm wrong. I want to change that. It's not about being right or what's wrong. The difference between 2 plus 2 is 5 and 2 plus 2 is 4 is one is a fact and one is a belief. Ooh, he went there. He sure did. One is a fact and one is a belief. So if I'm to say one is right and one is wrong, I'm already judging me for being me. It's already judgment. So my belief, 2 plus 2 is 5, is a belief. You're entitled to it. All of us live by the law of 2 plus 2 is 5. So if I'm saying it's right and it's wrong, then what I do, I'm judging me for it. Versus, this is who I choose to be authentically. The difference between these two equations, I want to simplify it, is our beliefs is what we are taught and told that may not be a fact. But I can believe something so long that it becomes a fact to me, even if it's not. Let me give you an example. Is there anybody here that has a cabinet, closet, drawer, usually in the kitchen, that's designated for things that don't work? Junk drawer?
Yep, junk drawer.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
I need y'all to know something. Having this junk drawer, is that a fact that you have it or a belief that you have it?
Fact.
Fact.
It's actually a belief. It's a belief. Yes,
Oh,
you
I see.
have it, but it's a belief around it. That junk drawer has followed you from birth to 2024. Let me help you break this down a little bit. You're choosing to collect things that don't work, that don't serve you, and you keep them with you. Because just curious, what's in that junk drawer?
Possibilities.
Possible. Ooh, I see you, Barbara. I see you. That's Gator Talk. Barbara's already getting this thing. That's Gator Talk. You're absolutely right. The junk drawer is possibilities. Outside of possibilities, what else is in there? Anybody?
Things that probably should be taken away.
Things that probably should, could be. What are those things? Anybody? What are they?
Things that need to be fixed.
So I need tangible items. What's in your junk drawer? Could somebody tell me what's in your junk drawer?
Pens that don't have ink.
Thank you, Goop. Pens that don't have ink, but I'm keeping it. Batteries that don't work, but I'm keeping it. Instructions to a TV I got rid of years ago, but I'm keeping it. iPhone boxes to iPhones you ain't had since the 5th version of an iPhone. Rubber bands, paper clips, ketchup packets, hot sauce, Taco Bell packets. You ain't ate Taco Bell in a long time. Coupons to restaurants that closed down years ago. I just want to talk about us. Salamanders. Doing salamander things, holding on to things that don't serve us. Now that's tangible because any of you can get up right now and walk to that drawer and remove things that don't work. But the reality is you don't remove it because of your beliefs. What's the belief? I'm going to need it one day. How can you need something that doesn't work? Ooh, I told y'all. Get it. We came here to do some work. I hope y'all ready to do some work. So your first life work, because I don't give homework, I give life work. Your first life work assignment is to get rid of one thing out of that junk drawer that doesn't serve you anymore. Just one thing. Those twist ties to all that bread you had, the twist ties to the bread, get rid of it. Crayon, you ain't got no kids at the house. Get rid of it. So that's your challenge, okay? Now, this is a tangible junk drawer. I want you to think about the figurative junk drawer, which means all the stuff in the basement that we also still hold on to that doesn't work for us. The Superman mentality is down there too. This belief that we can save the world. And that's all it is. It's a belief, not a fact. Now, I want to give you some facts. The reality is Superman himself can't save the world. Superman only saves who he can. And the only people he can save, they live in Metropolis. So if you live in Gotham City, It's over. You better call Batman, and good luck with that because it's crypto season. He hanging out with Elon now. So this belief that we have, I can say the world is a belief. It's 2 + 2 is 5. It's just as bad as the junk drawer, but it means the world to us because of how we think about it. It's your belief and you're entitled to it, but your belief is killing you. How do I know? We just proved it. I carry things that I don't need because my belief is I'm going to use it one day. Anger, frustration, pain, violence, addiction, you name it. It's all the stuff that's in the basement that we haven't got rid of yet because we don't spend any time in there. I just want to talk about us. Now, let me give you an example of this Superman mentality and how we can begin the process of shifting. Last time I checked, Superman works a full-time job, 46 hours a week at the Daily Planet. He's good at what he does. And when he goes save somebody, he got to take off work to go save. He put in PTO, and imagine this person hanging from this building for whatever reason, burning building. He flies up, gets the person, brings them back down to earth, and he's off. Usually he leaves and goes to the Fortress of Solitude where he kicks back with a six-pack and takes care of himself after he saves someone. But our Superman, Superwoman, Superperson mentality, we do the same thing, but we don't even take off work. We sneak off work to go help that same person, bring them down, dusting them off, wiping the smoke off, wiping the blood off, and bringing people in. Hey, this person needs help. This person needs help. And after that person is rescued and all the help is there, we stay there until the next emergency. Then we go to the next and the next and the next and the next. And we don't stop until our body shut down and say, I've had enough. We don't have a quarter of the powers that Superman has, but we act like we do. I just want to talk about beliefs and facts. Does this make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious. The Superman mentality leads to a dead battery. Remember the phone we talked about a little bit earlier? More than likely that battery dead. You don't allow your phone battery to die, even though your own battery does. It's getting hot in here. Getting hot in here. Okay? So many of us are drained by being everything to everyone. Why? Because my belief taught me to do that. Where does that belief come from? Our parents, our upbringing, our background. My belief, most grandmothers, because a lot of women deal with this more often than men, have this Superman, Superwoman mentality. Most grandmothers die tragically. Heart attack, heartbreak, heartache, diabetes, high blood pressure, mental health issues. Why? Because of the belief I have to save everybody. And it's passed down from generation to generation to generation. And we're drained and have a dead battery because we believe this is our responsibility. The only responsibility you have to take care of is yourself and the people you've had, who you've birthed. Outside of that, you're not responsible. That's just my opinion. That's my belief. I'm entitled to it. But we believe that we can save all, so we try to, even those who we had or we haven't. So the dead battery is what keeps us in this place of doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. So I'm curious, how do you currently, for those who had that dead battery and for those who are still struggling, how do you take care of yourself currently? I'm curious. Anybody?
Pilates.
Pilates. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Say no November.
Say no November. Oh, I like that. I like that.
Somebody from over here from the Fresno campus said, waiting for the weekend.
Waiting for the weekend. Okay. I like it. I like it. So this is the great thing about how you currently recharge. How you currently recharge is fine. It works for you. However, I want you all to consider enhancing how you take care of yourself by going a little bit deeper, going a little further, doing something new, different, and uncomfortable. Because if I choose to do things new, different, and uncomfortable related to self-care, then it's bringing more value to how I take care of myself. So how you take care of yourself is fine, but it's pennies on a dollar. To get you more return on your investment, it's important for you to do more based off of who you are now and not who you were before. Because some of us are doing self-care practices the same, even though we're adults, the same thing that we did as a child. Doesn't work for who we are right now, work for who we were back then. I want to challenge you to be more intentional about your self-care. Now, how do I become more intentional, Dr. Branch? Oh, great, I got you. The ESPM model for self-care. So now you need that pen and paper. I want you to draw a huge circle. Take up the whole page if you have to. Huge circle. In that circle, I want you to draw a vertical and horizontal line. For those that do math like me, draw a line straight up and down, straight across. It should look like a pie chart with 4 sections. In that pie chart, with that pie chart, on your sheet of paper, I want you to write for each quadrant, a letter for each quadrant, however you want to write it. First letter E, top left. On the top right, letter S. Bottom left, letter P. Bottom right, the letter M. ESPM. So, if you could, for those who are here, could you show your paper? Show what you wrote. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, what do you see with everyone's ESPN? What do y'all notice? What do you see?
Equal parts.
Say again?
Equal parts.
Equal parts, I'll take that. What else do you see? Okay, cool. So,
They look
so
similar.
what I need, they look similar. I'll take that. They look similar and they look different. So it's similar based off of the instruction, but they're all different because even though we all got the same information, how it's interpreted and how we write it is different. Nobody had the same design. And even when you saw what I just put up on the screen, some of you shrieked, "Oh my God, I did it wrong." Ah! That's salamander. You didn't do it wrong. I gave you instructions. What you did is great because it works for you. That's what I mean by when we practice self-care, by bringing more value, is figuring out what works for me. And it may not look like anybody else's. That's what's important. How can I value what I do create? So this is going to be our self-care assessment. Let's see where we are, and then we can determine where we're about to go. So this is us as a group. This whole ESPM, where we are, is us as a group. And I asked you, what are some of the things that you do to practice self-care now? I think those are great, but we're going to enhance it. So ESPM represents everything that we do for self-care, everything that we do for us. They all can fit in these 1 of 4 categories. E represents emotional, S is spiritual, P is physical, M is mental. Anything that you do in life for you can fit in 1 or more of these categories. So let's find out where we are. First thing, E, emotional. I'm curious. What do you do to enhance your emotional well-being every day? Anybody?
I listen to music.
Music. What else?
Help others.
Help others.
Listen to funny podcasts.
Socialize. Funny podcast. I'll take it. Anything else?
My toddler.
Toddler. Okay. Now we're going to take this to a whole nother level. Because when one way to enhance your self-care practices is to consider you and you only, which we don't do. So if you mention playing with your toddler, especially as a mom, may not be a lot of self-care. Now, self-care is whatever you say it is. However, how can it be about self if I'm giving? I got a couple toddlers myself. It's a job. It's work. We're constantly giving. We aren't constantly being on. That may not be the best version of self-care, but it does count. It works. The other, helping others. Again, Superman mentality. It's this idea, me helping other people helps me help me, which is great, but it's secondary, not primary. Again, pouring from an empty cup. My cup isn't filled and I'm still out here trying to help everybody else. So part of this self-care is to shift the beliefs about self-care to put me first. Now, many of us struggle, salamanders, with putting me first because it connects to a negative connotation called being selfish. We're not being selfish when we take care of ourselves, but there's a belief related to being selfish. That's why we don't practice it often. If we do, we hide. We don't share it. But I want to challenge you, this is Life Work Part 2, to change your wordplay. Because if I'm using selfish to describe self-care, then I'm not going to do it often because I don't want to be judged, ridiculed. I don't want people to feel a certain way about what I do. You can shift that wordplay from selfish to putting myself first. That changes the game. So I'm taking some points off because the things that y'all mentioned about self-care has everything to do with everybody else. Walking your dog, it may or may not do self-care, but like I said, that's secondary. Me walking by myself, it's self-care because I don't have any distractions. The dog ain't running around. The kids ain't running around. I can just be me authentically. So based off of that, right now, we got about 3 things that we do for our self-care. What was that? Okay, we got about 3 things that we do for our self-care. And somebody said social media, I'm taking that off too. But I'm taking that off too. So right now we got music and podcast. 2 things. So I'm gonna give us for our emotional well-being 2%. So we take care of our emotional wellness 2% of the time. This is us as a unit. This is us as a whole, which is okay. I'm gonna help you get better. The second on the right is spiritual. What do you do to enhance your spiritual wellness, well-being every day? Anybody?
Right.
I meditate and pray.
Pray, meditation. I'll take it. What else?
What's that? Deep breathing?
Devotional, deep breathing. I love it.
Go outside.
Now, outside. Now we get into that self-care because we're talking about self. Everything that y'all mentioned has everything to do with self. I pray. I meditate. I have devotion. I breathe. I go outside. Ain't got nothing to do with the kids, or the dog, or nobody else. It's about me. So spiritually, y'all kicking butt right now. And I'm going to give us 20%. I'll give you 20%. Now, each quadrant represents 25%. The circle as a whole is 100%. So right now, we're taking care of ourselves 22% of the time, which is okay. We still got 2 more to go. P, physical. How do you enhance your physical well-being daily? Anybody?
Walking.
Walking. Intentional or walking because you parked a distance away from the store?
Intentional, Dr.
I
Brand.
love it, Goop. I love it, Goop. All right.
What if
intentionally?
what if I intentionally parked far away from the store?
That can be considered self-care. Again, self-care is whatever you say it is. I just want you to be mindful of, does it bring value? So if you're intentionally walking a distance from the store, it works. If that's the only walking I'm doing, I can do better. I can do better. So dance class, walking, anything else? That's it.
Eating well.
Okay.
Yeah, eating at least one type of fruit.
Eating one fruit. I love it. Yoga. This is so good. All right. I see y'all with the physical. So I'm gonna give you, we're gonna do 10%. We're gonna do 10%. All right. Last but not least, mental. What are you doing to enhance your one fruit? I love it. What do you mental? What do you do to enhance your mental wellness, mental well-being? Anybody?
I mow the lawn.
Mowing. I love that. What else?
I go to therapy.
Therapy. Come on now. Therapy. What else?
Someone
Drink
said cook.
wine.
Cook. Did somebody say wine? Did I hear wine? Wine
Yeah,
counts, too.
wine.
Wine counts. We're all adults here.
Maybe
And reading.
wine goes in all of my categories.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Now, that's where you were. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. So right now, mental, I'm going to give y'all some credit for a minute. I'm going to give it 10%. Now, this is our self-care assessment. This is us as a unit. This is us as a whole. Whatever you do for one category, you can't do it for others. So if I use prayer for spiritual, I can't use prayer for anything else. That means I want to challenge you to push to create more things to do for yourself. Whatever you do normally, it's great, but the value isn't as great if you're willing to dive deeper into how do I do better with my self-care. So right now, as a unit, we are at 42%. Pretty decent, right? 42%. However, if we're being realistic, the question I ask about each 4 of these is, what do you do daily, meaning every day? And for many of us, this isn't an everyday practice. So therefore, that 42%, I have to cut in half. So right now, us as a unit, we are taking care of ourselves 20% of the time, 21% of the time. But for the sake of math, we're going to make it 20%. So right now, we take care of ourselves 20% of the time, which means 80% of us goes to everybody else. Hey, Superman. Hey, salamanders. 20% is rough. I agree, but that's our life. That's our truth. I just want to talk about it. We're talking about it now because I'm sure some of us are lower than 20%. No shade, no disrespect, but that's where we are. So in order to get better, my challenge to you, homework number 3, life work, is to begin adding 1 to 2 new things per category. So what can I start doing to enhance my emotional wellness? What can I start doing to enhance my spiritual, physical, mental, that I can do daily? That's what makes self-care a lot more difficult, because we're not thinking about daily practices. I'm going by a quote that was said earlier, I'm waiting for the weekend. Why am I waiting to take care of me? Ooh, I just want to talk about it. Why am I waiting to take care of me? The same reason I wait to have fun on vacation. Many of us don't take care of ourselves until we're on vacation. How often do I take a vacation? Once a year. So once a year, I'm taking care of me. Come on, make it make sense. This is junk drawer salamander mentality. I just want to talk about it. Add 1 or 2 new things that you can do for each category. If it feels overwhelming, you're working too hard. The reason you're working too hard is because when we think about self-care, we think about it on a macro level. Going to the gym, prayer, meditation, it's macro. I want you to consider self-care on a micro level. Micro is deciding to do small things that add deposits to your self-care account. So right now, this is your self-care bank account, and we got $20 to our name. $20 to your name. So just curious, how long will $20 last you in a week? Thank you, Ashley. A day. It's over by lunch. Ashley's like, it's over by lunch. So $20 is gone by lunch on Monday. So therefore, for those who said, I'm waiting for the weekend, I'm waiting to get paid on the weekend to take care of me. It doesn't work. What am I going to do Tuesday through Friday? Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you, Sabrina. What am I going to do? So that's why I want us to change how we do self-care by how can I make small deposits every day? This is your self-care account, right? Now, we're talking about 20%. And let's look at percentages. If 20% I change it to a dollar amount, as we all agree, I can't go beyond Monday. Let's say, for instance, we don't like percentages, right? No, let's say, for instance, we like percentages, but I want to look at this in a different way. Imagine taking a shower and just washing 20% of your body. That's 1 underarm. I'm so glad we're meeting virtually, because it would be funky up in this room if we were not. So you're washing 1 underarm thinking I'm practicing self-care. It's not enough. Yeah, it's cool, you get washed, but it's not enough. So therefore, we have to be willing to do more. When you think about self-care, I want you to think about money. So right now we got $20 in our account. I got to find ways to add more value, meaning adding more money. So that's our assessment. We see where we are. We take care of ourselves 20% of the time. Everybody else get 80%. That's who we were. Who we are now, we can change. So now flip the page. We're going to do the same thing in a different way. So new page. Who this? Draw that circle again. Vertical, horizontal line. Line straight up and down. Line straight across. ESPM 1 more time. Now we're going to take it to a whole nother level. We assess to see where we were. Now we're going to embrace who we are. And then we get to work to who we're trying to become. Everybody got it? We good? We ready? All right, so let's dive in. Life work. We're trying to go above 20%. That's the goal, right? So I want you to consider new and different things to do for your ESPM and think about it on a micro level. For example, many of us brush our teeth maybe once or twice a day. Post-COVID, maybe once a day. We brush our teeth once or twice a day, which is cool, but that's pennies on the dollar. Imagine if I just added another time of brushing my teeth. So I brush my teeth 3 times a day. That enhances my oral hygiene. But let's go a step further. What if I start flossing? What if I bought a little water pick? What if I use mouthwash? What if I start doing regular dentist appointments every 6 months, every 4 months? That enhances your oral hygiene, and that's how we add more value to our self-care. I want you to think about value, and the value is the substance that sustains us. If I just brush my teeth, that ain't gonna sustain you for a long time. That's why you do it twice. But if I do more, I can handle more. Practicing self-care helps you handle more of the stuff that life is going to give you. We on the same page? This making sense? All right, so I want to give you what I do to help you create what you do. When you think about your emotional wellness, I want you to think about your heart. So emotional wellness is, what can I do differently? What can I add that brings joy to my heart on a micro level? So for me, every day, if you notice, I find a way to laugh. Every day. It costs me nothing, doesn't take a lot of time. Laughter is my medicine for my self-care. Boom, it's already covered. I don't need a membership for it. I ain't got to pay nobody for it. I laugh at me. Emotionally, I'm taking care of me for the day. That's just one, right? Another example of emotional wellness, going outside. Just leaving the house, leaving the office, leaving the school, leaving the classroom. Just go outside. Feel the breeze of the air, the wind. Walk outside in the sunshine, go to the beach. Just getting outside doesn't require much, doesn't take much. It's on a micro level, but the value is enhanced because it doesn't cost you anything. A lot of times when it comes to our self-care, it comes at a cost, literally and figuratively. All right. Third, I'll give you three. Another way that I practice self-care emotionally is cartoons. Disney movie, a random TV show with my boys. Whether I watch it with them or by myself, there's no way I can be mad, really upset, and watch Disney and still be mad by the time the movie goes off. Just not gonna happen. Not going to happen. So it's small, but it's big. So those are three things that enhances my emotional well-being. That's me making deposits. I've taken care of my emotional well-being for today. And it ain't even noon. Guess what? That's money in my account. Way more than $20. Let's move to spiritual wellness. Understand spirituality, religion are two different things. A lot of times we get caught up with spirituality and make it religion because it's not. Because religion is a set of rules, principles, guidelines that we follow that was taught or told to us that may or may not work for us, but we do it. So the prayer, meditation, fasting, all those great things, it's great. But when I think about spiritual, when I think about spiritual, is the things that's beyond us. Stepping outside, feeling the breeze, seeing mountains. Every time I walk outside my house, there are mountains. And anytime I see mountains, it makes me small, which makes me feel real big. It's bigger than me, spiritually. Animals, right? Nature, connecting with nature, water, all those things enhances us spiritually. Also music. So Barbara, I feel you, Barbara. So music helps me spiritually. Every single day, I'm listening to music. Whether it's hip hop, gospel, R&B, or trap, I'm listening to music because it enhances my spiritual wellness. That's for me. So you got to figure out what works for you. So now we done emotional and spiritual. Are we whole? Are we balanced? No, we're not. But many of us do a few things for our emotional and our spiritual, and that's enough. That's like taking a shower and only washing your upper body. Again, I'm glad we're meeting virtually. Next piece, physical. For me, when it comes to physical, is where do I physically spend my time? Always at work, always at school. First one in, last one to leave. Down at the bar, down at the club, over at Pookie Nim house, Mama Nim house, babysitting, taking care of folks. Where am I physically spending my time? I'm mindful of my time. I'm also mindful of my boundaries. The word no is a complete sentence. We got to practice saying it a little more often. That's self-care. That's physically putting me first. Also, as mentioned before, if I'm choosing to park a little further away from the building, that works. Taking a walk. Every day I find a way to walk. Even now, doing this presentation, I'm standing up. That's self-care. I'm giving to you all, but I'm taking care of me at the same time. That's Gator Talk. That's Gator Talk. Physically, what am I eating? What am I consuming? Do I even eat breakfast in the morning? What do I choose to eat for breakfast in the morning? What do I choose to consume? We're consumers. What am I choosing to consume? And many of us, because of the pandemic, replace water with wine. We ain't even talking about religion. We replace water with wine because of where we once were. And even though we passed that space, some habits die hard. So I got to choose what I'm consuming, even when it comes to social media, which leads to the mental. So that's our physical we covered. Mental health, mental wellness. Somebody mentioned therapy. I love it, but I can't do therapy every day. You can, but I don't know who's going to allow it. Because I can't think of one client that I want to see every day. Not one. I don't even think about me. I can't look at me every day. So I'm sorry, I'm practicing self-care. So when it comes to my mental health, my mental wellness, for me, and this is what I want to challenge you on, anything that enhances your mindset is practicing self-care. So every day I do something new, different, and or uncomfortable. Every day. Because that's part of my self-care. That me choosing to do something new, different, uncomfortable shifts my brain set, my mind, Because once the mind expands, it never goes back to its original form. Anything new, different, and uncomfortable that you learn shifts your mind. This workshop itself is life-changing if you allow it to be. Because the concepts that you're learning, it's different and it shifts your mind. I mean, think about when the last time you talked about a salamander and a gator? Never. Never. So that's mental. New, different, uncomfortable. Also think about what you're consuming. Social media, being willing to say no, being willing to unfriend, unfollow, block, news media, choosing when and where and how I choose to consume news media or choosing not to consume it at all. Some of the people, places, and things that we spend time with drained our mental wellness. So I got to be mindful of who I spend time with. And some people y'all spend time with, you've outgrown, but because of the belief, you still keep. Ooh, that might even include family. True story. Some of our family is killing us, but we allow it because of their position or title in our lives. Oh my goodness. I hope y'all ready. So that covers our mental. So now we took care of emotional, we took care of our spiritual, we took care of our mental. We are good. We are at 100%. But at 100%, how long would that last us? Anybody? How long does it last? I'll help you.
1 day.
All day long. All day long. 1 day. 1 day. Just like a literal shower. How long would a literal shower last you? About a day. But it's post-COVID, I give you 2 days. I'll give you 2 days. But a literal shower lasts about a day. And then you're going to need another shower. Same thing with self-care. This is something I have to practice every day. So what I'm asking you to do, instead of one underarm, instead of your upper body, I'm asking you to wash yourself from head to toe. What that means is you have to wash your ass. Assets. Your body. It's an asset, right? Wash your assets. Because you are the investment. It's you. You are an asset. Washing myself is me taking better care of myself. By taking better care of myself, I'm no longer pouring from an empty cup. Because I got plenty to give because I've taken care of me first. Putting yourself first means taking care of you first. It does not mean not taking care of anybody else. I need to make sure I'm okay to help you become okay. That's self-care to me, right? So the 24 hours, this is a practice that you're working on. So to dive into this practice, understand the difference between a salamander and a gator, because a salamander, first thought is, oh my God, this is a lot. I got to do it all today. If you have that thought, it's okay. This is just part of being a salamander. But a gator knows that I don't have to do this all today, because a gator can decide, I'm going to work on my emotional wellness this week or this month or today. Next week, next month, I'm going to do spiritual. Next month, next week, emotional and spiritual. Next week, emotional spirit. So every day you get to decide how you do it. Again, I've developed this over a decade ago and I haven't mastered it yet. Why? Because I'm human, but I'm better now than I've ever been in my entire life. And you get to be better by what you decide to do every day. You choose. We choose. So begin slowly integrating different ways of taking better care of yourself and find a way to make it about you, which leads to the fourth life work assignment. This week, I want to challenge you to do something for you and you only, intentionally. And a lot of times people say, I'm going to take my kid to the mall. I'm going to take my dog. No, I need you to take care of you and you only, period. 30 minutes, an hour, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes. Doesn't matter, but choose you first. We on the same page? All right. So what this looks like is investing in yourself. My belief, 2 + 2 is 5, that you will always earn 100% return on your investment when you invest in yourself. Always. When, where, how, why that return comes, we don't know anything about it. Our job is to invest. So when you start investing more in yourself by doing new, different and uncomfortable things, shifting people, places, and things, you begin making larger deposits for yourself. The more deposits I have, the more I have in my self-care account. The more money I have in my self-care account, the less withdrawals impact me. Let me give you an example. Many of us, going back to that $20, right? $20 in the account. We just talking about the old self. Y'all better now. So if I only got $20 and I spend that $20 by lunch, as y'all know, being Superman, Superwoman, super person, I go to Starbucks and I see a friend, I'm not only going to buy me a coffee, I'm going to buy that person a coffee too. But I got a zero balance in my account. And that coffee, even though it's $5, well, we are Starbucks, it's $10. So I spent $10, there's an overdraft charge. So now, usually $30, that overdraft, now that $10 cup of coffee cost me $40. And then I bought a cup for somebody else, that's about $80. I just need y'all to see it because I don't have enough in my account. But when I have enough in my account, I can buy everybody coffee, but it ain't every day. So take your cape off, okay? Take your cape off. So the question comes up, how do I start investing? You came to the right place. I got you covered. First thing, we have to be willing to become comfortable being uncomfortable, which means I challenge you all to do anything new, different, and uncomfortable related to your self-care, even if it's as simple as saying, no, not today. Even if it's as simple as taking a day off. Even as simple as choosing you. I'm gonna look out for me today. Small, but big. Challenge your own thoughts and beliefs. Again, that junk drawer, think about the literal junk drawer and the figurative one. Things that you can get rid of. For many of us, we struggle with that belief around napping. Some of those, we don't take naps because of the belief that we have about naps. I want to challenge you to shift that belief and take a nap. Because if I don't, eventually my body's gonna nap for me. It happens all the time. Next, step outside your comfort zone by intentionally doing something new, different, and uncomfortable every day. Choose you every day. Start with yourself, because that's the only person that you can control or change. Start with you. Next is adopt the ESPM model for self-care and begin practicing it daily. What you did not hear was begin perfecting it daily. You didn't hear that. I need you to hear this gator talking. And the gator is saying, let me just practice being better every day. Many of us, going back to that salamander analogy, we have a championship mentality, which means every time we get in the game, every time we play the game, we want to win. We want confetti to fall because it's very black and white thinking. And I want you to change that to move away from this championship mentality and get into a practice mentality. Because any professional athlete that's ever won a championship, they've practiced way more than they've ever won a championship. And because of how they practice and when they practice and where they practice, it determines their outcome when it comes to a championship. So gators practice. Salamanders try to perfect. I want you just to practice. That's my challenge for you. Now, we got to protect our investments. How do I protect my investment? I want to simplify. Take breaks from news and social media outlets. I'm not saying stop altogether, but take a break. Take a moment. I'm going to take some time off. Block, delete, unfollow, unfriend. Some of you are friends with people you ain't seen in years. Them high school buddies, y'all don't even talk. Why you keep them on the phone? One day you never know. They might get in that something could happen. It's a belief, right? So the reason that we keeping people in our phones or keeping people in our lives is the same reason that we keep junk in our drawer. It's the same thing. So I got to be willing to challenge myself to remove people, places, and things that I've outgrown to make room for what I deserve based off a better version of me. I'm not the same anymore. And when you start practicing self-care and taking care of yourself, you're not the same. And people are going to have a problem with it because they're accustomed to you saving them. Set and maintain some healthier boundaries. For many of us, our boundaries suck. It's like a brick wall that's around you, but it only goes to your kneecap, which means at any point in time, somebody can just step over and be all in your face. But if I got healthier boundaries, my wall goes all the way over my head. I'm protected. You don't have access. That's Gator talk. People who have access are based off the ones that I give access. But if my boundaries aren't good, everybody has access. Hashtag salamander. Practice using the word no. It's a complete sentence. We're done. When you're ready, please have some uncomfortable conversation. And I'm sure the first thought was thinking about who you need to have a conversation with. Instead of thinking about that person, I want you to think about different versions of yourself to have a conversation with. I have to have conversations with me all the time. For example, every time I pass Krispy Kreme and that hot light on, automatically, hey, we need to go. That's the old version of me, little fat boy mentality. That's the old me. I'm not that guy anymore. So I got to check myself. Hey, man, we don't do that no more. And then every now and then, the old version of me wins. We finna go get 2 donuts at least. So have some uncomfortable conversation with yourself. Next, be willing to ask for help. Put the ego to the side and be willing to ask for help. Many of us are in the trunk of our own car. How can I get it out of the trunk and get in the driver's seat? By doing that, I have to be willing to ask for help. Next piece, it's time to stop apologizing for being who you are. What burns my gears are people, everyday human beings, don't care what level you're on, constantly apologizing for being who they are. I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry. It's not, oftentimes you don't even mean the apology. It's just a habit, an excuse to let people know, hey, I'm doing the best I can what I have. I want to challenge you to stop apologizing for being you. And instead of asking for permission, start asking for forgiveness. Be mindful of what you can and cannot control. There's a lot of things going on in our life that we have no control over, but we obsess about the things that we can't control versus being in the driver's seat and controlling what you can and letting go of what you have no control over. Next, create a network of support and resources. You can't do this alone. You've tried. It doesn't work. So now you can consider doing things different. Last but not least, I'm a branch, but you're not a tree. That means you can leave any situation that doesn't serve you. That means you can leave an unhealthy relationship, an unhealthy job, a work environment, an unhealthy marriage. You can leave. You're not required to be anywhere that doesn't serve you. But it's hard for me to consider leaving if my belief is this is what I'm supposed to do. I want to challenge you. Step outside your comfort zone and consider you first. Now, movement to covering, right? I said wash your assets. So covering your assets. Part of covering your assets is increase your self-awareness and self-discovery. How do I do that? You got to spend some time in that basement. I want to challenge you to spend more time in the basement. Go down there and have some conversation with yourself about things that work and the things that don't work based off of who you are. I feel as though all of us dealing with those three parallels, who we were, who we are, we're becoming, it's a constant battle. And that battle looks like you in this huge arena. It's an octagon with your current self and your old self. And the arena is packed, not a seat empty. And every seat is full of every version of you from birth to where you are right now. Your future self is outside the arena trying to discover, do I get a ticket to this show? Do I take my butt home? Every day you get to decide who you're going to be. So when it comes to covering your assets, I would challenge you to increase your self-awareness and self-discovery. Get to know who you are, not who people told you were. Find out who you are. Next, find some balance and build some healthier relationships. That means we got to be willing to apologize instead of waiting on people to apologize to us. Some of y'all owe some people an apology and you already know who that person is. Stop waiting on them. Step up to the plate and be a gator about it. Have some courage and apologize to rebuild or reconnect. Accept people for who they are and not who you want them to be. Many of us struggle with our partners, our families, our friends, professors, whomever, because of who they are. And we have an expectation of who we want people to be instead of accepting them for exactly who they are. Again, be willing to ask and seek professional help. Therapy, great opportunity, great time for you to begin diving into you. Last but not least, increase your self-care practices daily by washing your assets. All of it, okay? All of it. And what the challenge in doing this is killing who you once were. That's the death of the Superman mentality. I want to challenge y'all to have the death of the Superman mentality, because the assessment we just did in the new way of practicing self-care is shifting from taking care of yourself 20% to now taking care of yourself 80% of the time and everybody else get 20. Imagine your life taking care of you for 80% of the time and everybody else get 20. Your life will change with that. And in order to do that, you got to talk about, think about, live about the facts. The facts are, I can't save the world. I can only save who I can. And the only person that you can control or change happen to be you. So if you get rid of that Superman mentality, that old house that we talked about before, this is your new house. Ooh, you doing all right over here. That's the new house that you can move into mentally, physically, and emotionally, spiritually, based off of taking better care of you. This is an investment. And this is how we invest in ourselves. So I want to challenge you to be willing to step outside your comfort zone and do whatever is needed and necessary to become the best version of you possible. By doing that, you're modeling behavior for your family, for your friends, for your children, for your clients, for your colleagues, for everyone. Think about the energy that I'm giving y'all. How do you think I'm able to do it? Because I took care of me today. And guess what I do when I get off this call? I'm finna go take care of me again. And then I'm gonna be with the fam. They ain't going nowhere. They ain't going nowhere. I'm gonna spend time with them after I take care of me. It's now a way of life. So speaking about this way of life, I want to talk about self-care Sundays. When I was a doc student, I was working 12, 14-hour days, 7 days a week. That was just part of the life. And then I found myself on Sundays deciding I'm not doing anything. I may go to church, I may go to the movies, but I started integrating a practice of self-care Sunday by choosing not to do any schoolwork on Sunday. So Sunday was my day for me, and I did whatever the hell I wanted to do. What that looked like, usually I'm in my PJs all day. Pajamas, for those who don't know what PJs are. I'm in my pajamas. I may not get out the bed until noon. I may cook a little breakfast. I go to the movies. I hit a movie because that's how I practice self-care. Again, being in the dark helps me. So I'll go to the movies. I'll cook dinner. I may watch a movie at the house. I may take a nap. I do whatever works best for me. And what happened is, by the end of my time, self-care Sunday became a way of life, meaning every Sunday, my body would just shut down. We done, bruh. What we doing today? Like my future self will have a conversation with my current self, but what are we doing today? What do you want to do for you today? And now it's a daily practice. So when I got married, my partner and I, she's a therapist as well, so I get away with nothing. So when we got together, she noticed like Sundays, I'm in real chill mode. And she said, what is this about? Like, yo, you don't even, you chilling on Sunday. I said, yeah, this is part of self-care Sunday. It's a part of my identity now. And before I know it, she in her PJs with me till noon on Sunday, unless we go to church. That works for us. You know what else worked for us? We had a really hard conversation about the junk drawer, because as we got partnered, as most people, when you get partnered, you bring your junk to the table just like your partner does. So we both had this junk drawer, and we maintained this junk drawer until we had a conversation about it. Let's get rid of things that doesn't serve us anymore. And we decided to just slowly remove things that don't serve us and slowly add things that did. What that means is our junk drawer evolved into a utility drawer because everything in there works. Now, I got 2 little boys, 1 and 3. They're growing up with the utility drawer, not a junk drawer. We grew up with junk drawers. Now the legacy changes by we choosing us. They're not growing up with that. So all they know is utility drawer. We don't keep things around the house that don't work. That's legacy. That's what self-care looks like. That's what taking care of you looks like. It's passed down from generation to generation to generation, because that's what trauma did for us as well. It was passed down from generation to generation. We can decide to be different by doing different. I would challenge you to do and be different. We got some time. So I want to open the floor. Questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, rebuttal. I am here and we got time.
I'll say that I've never wanted to be a Gator more in my life. So thank you, Dr. Branch. But I love that, like, the conversation on self-care as being seen as that self-preservation. Rest is resistance. You're right. I think lots of times we see self-care as being selfish, and doing for others. But we need to also do for ourselves as we're helping people. And I also had never thought of that championship mentality as well. I think counseling is a really unique profession where you're not always going to, people aren't going to see the work you're doing, right? It's only you and the client in the session, and that's okay. That celebration, that courage has to come from inside. It has to be internal rather than external. So you got to praise yourself every day for the work you're doing, just as we ask our clients to praise themselves.
I love it, Dr. Diaz. Love it. Thank you for that. Thank you for all of that. Others. Mr. Farron, what's up, Paul? What you got?
Dr. Branch, how are you? Hey, thanks so much for the lecture. I loved it. I've heard a bit of it before, but it's always good review and a few new bits in there. And I just wanted to mention, I really like your new, different, and uncomfortable idea. And I have really tried to pull that into my routine. So
I love it.
yeah. So anyway, I just
I
want
love
to
it.
say that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate the love. And don't all the things that I'm sharing, don't take my word for it. Try it out. Try it out and see what happens. But since I've been doing this new, different, uncomfortable, for me, I've changed. I've evolved in a lot of different ways, and I love the person that I've become because of it. For example, a lot of people, this is something that grinds my gears. For some people, it's like, hey, do you like sushi? And they're like, no, I don't like sushi. And you ask, have you ever tried it? No, I never tried it. Really? So for a lot of us, we have that same mentality. We don't do things, we don't try things because of what we believe about those things. Not what we know, it's what we think. And to change what you think, you have to be willing to do things different to know something different. I can't talk about what I've never experienced before. And whatever I do talk about it, more than likely it's that addict thought. What's in my head, not what's in reality. Others. Okay,
I wanted to just,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Justin, what you got?
oh, sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on what you were mentioning before about not being either black or white. I I remember the talk you had in one of our classes telling us even just to put one pant leg on, put the left one on instead of the right. And I was thinking, what do we do when we're about to leave the house? We're all dressed, ready to go, but we put our socks and shoes on last. So I put my socks on first, and that was enough to be like, wow, this is weird. So so that was a good, a good experience to feel that difference. And then I just started doing it just because why not? Um, but another thing, as far as the black and white, I think that also would pertain to the salamander leader perspective, because if I look at it in a way to where I'm growing towards being a gator, I can start to develop those scales on my back and start to develop, that more tough, that gritty look. So I'd be like an iguana instead of a gator or a salamander. I'll be right in the middle somewhere. So I'm getting there, but still just at the lower end. So I like those analogies. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Justin. I love it. I love it. Also, there's a new term that just came up recently, that in between, like I'm in between a salamander and in between a gator, like you said, iguana. It's a saligator. So if you're a saligator, you're right. You're right in between. You're in between the two. Now, I want to share another concept related to this black and white thinking. Okay, so many of us struggle with black and white thinking. Our society, culture, background, this country, the whole nine. A lot of us are just born into this mindset of very black and white. So I want to give you some insight to help you shift. Because as you all know, if that black and white thinking, like literally black and white thinking, in between black and white is at least 50 shades of gray. Y'all seen the movie? Y'all read the book, right? So it's at least 50 shades of gray. So that means I got 52 options to do or try whatever. Now, 52 may not be enough for you. I want to give you some more. As a dad, I read a lot of books with my boys. I mean, a lot on repeat. And there was one book that I read with my son. It was about letters. And we got to the letter S, and it was related to sea moss. And I discovered, did you know that there are 12,000 species of sea moss? I had no idea. I thought it was just one, first name sea, last name moss. But I figured out it was 12,000 species. So therefore, if I chose to learn about every species of sea moss, it could every day, if I learned about a different species every day, it would take me 32.8 years to learn all of them. And we're just talking about sea moss. Imagine all the other things in life we don't know nothing about. And we'll never know if we stay comfortable. So this is part of why I'm challenging us to do better, to do different. We're stepping out our comfort zone because there's so much we know nothing about. But how will I know about it if I stay comfortable? Meaning, nobody here changed the thermostat in their house until the seasons change. Whatever that thermostat is, we keep it. What I'm asking you, or I'm challenging you to do, change the thermostat. Because if you change the thermostat, get too hot, it get too cold, what are you going to do? Move. You're going to move. You're not going to sit still. So change the thermostat every day by moving, by choosing to do something different. Raise the bill. You can do that too. Don't raise my bill. What else?
I I have a question, Dr. Branch. Hi, how
Ask
are you?
away. Good,
I always
good.
love your talks. Thank you. I'm thinking about different self-care things, and like I was the one that blurted out wine every day. How do you know when you're doing things that might not be like healthy or serving you? Like, where's the line? Like, for example, I have a friend who, as self-care, would go to her father's grave every day. That to her was like her meditation, but it did start to become too much at some point where she was getting a little bit um, reminding her of the grief every day. And then there's things like calling up friends and venting to them. Is that self-care? Is that unhealthy? Or like there's so many of those that kind of toe the line. And when do you know that if you're taking care of yourself or getting into a bad habit?
Great question. Great question. The reason, the way you know that is knowing yourself. So that self-awareness piece and self-discovery that I mentioned before is how you begin to determine who you are and who you are not. Self-care is whatever you say it is. There's no law, there's no rule, there's no route. It's whatever you say it is, that's what self-care is. So if it's going to a gravesite, if it's drinking wine every day, if that's what you say self-care is, that's what it is. Now, if these practices that I'm doing are hurting me, then it's time to reconsider how I'm practicing self-care. Wine every day, is it hurting me? Is it helping me? Only you know that. You know better than I do because you know yourself. If you notice these self-care practices are hurting you, say for instance, I'm going to the gym 7 days a week, but I injure myself every week, then it may be time to reconsider my practices for self-care. So for me, I don't want to tell anybody what is or what isn't self-care. It's figuring out what works best for you. But anytime you have to question something, question it. Anytime you have to question it. Because there's a reason that you're questioning. And more than likely, the results are in the basement, but we don't want to go there. So if you go to that basement, you start finding things that work for you and what doesn't work for you. And at any point in time, you can change. So you can go from red wine to white wine. You can go from red wine, you can go from wine to water. For example, for me, I used to do I used to drink, I was about to say I used to do Coke. I used to I used to drink Coke. I used to drink Coke all the time. And then I just noticed how I felt, like bloated and heavy. And I'm like, I don't like how I feel because I start paying attention to my body. So what I did was substitute Coca-Cola for coconut water. And it changed everything for me, and it was a small gradual change where I still got a couple cans of Coke in my refrigerator, but I got more bottles of coconut water. And I even moved from Coca-Cola to LaCroix, whatever it's called, the seltzer water. I just made a shift and I feel differently. So you have to begin looking at yourself and how do I feel? How do I think? What's coming up for me? Because your body will always tell you, we just don't listen. We don't listen to it. So my challenge, Angela, is to listen to your body physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. You got to start listening. Your body, mind, heart, and soul will always tell you. We just don't want to accept the reality of what it's telling us. That's my 3. Barbara, what you got?
Oh, I really appreciate the idea of taking something out of the junk drawer instead of, I just ignore it. Like I have multiple junk drawers, and the idea of it's not going to be a problem until I move, right? Or it's going to be a problem for my kids, right? And but I do the same thing with like social media. Like I have accounts that it's just too much. I don't even look at anymore, and I have hundreds of whatever friends, followers, whatever. But I don't like it's just over there. And so I was just wondering, what would it look like for me to just like close it down? Like, like
I think that's a valid question. And guess the best way to find the answer is to do it.
Yeah.
So this is an example. This is happening in real time. Me and Barbara did not practice this. Barbara, what you're sharing is your inner self. The future version of Barbara, she's talking now. That's who was just talking to us about, I wonder what if. That's the future version of us giving us permission to reconsider whatever's current. Challenge it. See what happens. You can always bring them back. I love it.
I think I could, right?
Absolutely. Are there others? So I want to give y'all a final thought before we get out of here. Any others?
One more thing I just wanted to share is that idea of that perspective taking. And I was recently I was reading a book to my nephew and niece, and it was the Rainbow Fish book. And so it talks a lot about sharing, right? But when I was reading through it, I was like, wait, this little rainbow fish is giving all of his shiny scales to everyone. And yes, that message of sharing is beautiful, but then he gets left with one shiny scale, you know? And so I feel like for him, I think more self-care was needed, right? So again, that those beliefs of having to give to others they're always there, even when we're young.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think all this stuff has followed us from birth to where we are now. It's why we live the way we live. Hopefully, this presentation, this workshop can kind of give you insight to consider something different. As simple as a junk drawer, as simple as taking your cape off, as simple as challenging the facts versus the beliefs. Because 99.9% of the things that we do or don't do is based off of what we feel and what we believe. I haven't seen anything else. I just haven't. Now, I want to share something. I've curated. I'm all about wellness and getting us better. I've curated. I'm sorry. I started a podcast, and this podcast is called the Three Parallels Podcast with your host, the Dr. Jason Branch, where we discover who we were, who we are, who we're becoming. So I created a podcast around everything that we're talking about right now. It's going to be released December 4th, 9 o'clock Pacific time, midnight Eastern. Now, before you get to the podcast, I curated a podcast playlist that's available to you right now in the chat box on Spotify. So the great thing about this playlist is I curated it and it never ends. It never dies. It just constantly evolves. And part of me curating it is all the guests that's been on the show, they give me suggestions, or they gave me some suggestions to add to the playlist. So the playlist is very diverse. And one thing that I found that connects humans is food and music. I don't care where you are, who you are, food and music connects us. So I chose to create this playlist to connect us as human beings. It's diverse from AC/DC to gospel, all the way to hip hop, trap, R&B, jazz, Mozart. Like, it's so many different genres on there. Now, there's only one recommendation with the playlist. Once you have access to it, you hit shuffle and then hit play. Within the first 3 songs, you're going to hear something, see something, experience something, or have an opportunity to learn something new, different, and uncomfortable based on music. So don't take my word for it. Check out the playlist, hit shuffle, hit play, and see what you notice in those 3 songs. It could be lyrics. It could be a song that take you back to your undergrad days or elementary school, whatever. It's going to take you somewhere. And I'm using this for us intentionally to go in the basement, to start removing things that doesn't serve us, to make our basement as pristine as our attic. You know how comfortable your head in your head is. How can I make my basement that comfortable? Which means I can be fully present in the living room. And I'm going to leave the house that I was in to go to that house that I put down earlier, because you don't stay the same. We change, we evolve by willing to do things new, different, and uncomfortable. So that's my gift to you all. The podcast is coming, but until then, the playlist is available for you. So dive in.
Dr. Branch, it's Melanie speaking. Can you just stay for a little bit longer? We're gonna stay. We have something to tell you at the end, so.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, rebuttal? Thank y'all for the love. Thank you so much. Again, I want to share, whenever you start practicing this ESPM, if you feel stress, anxiety, oh my God, it's overwhelming, you're doing too much, okay? Just know you're doing way too much. Start small and do one thing per category. Just start small. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to be perfect at it. You don't have to perfect it. But how can I practice showing up for myself, doing one thing that contributes to this cup? So ESPM is 4 different cups, and I get to pour into each cup any way that I choose to every day. Whatever you say goes. Again, it's your house. So find what works best for you, and whatever the things that you're doing, how do you evolve those things? For example, I used to be a gamer back in the day. Like, I would play video games all day. That was my thing. But I outgrew video games, especially now I'm becoming a parent. I don't play games at all. Like, I don't play no game. So, so going from not playing games, I've transitioned from games into going to the movies. I love going to a movie, big bucket of popcorn. I'm in the dark. It's an hour or two to myself. I love going to the movies as much as I love playing video games, but I've outgrown the games and I indulge in a movie. Now, what's beautiful about that self-care practice, I'm also integrating movies and discussion about movies into another podcast that's coming after this current one. So I'm practicing self-care and now I'm creating something that other people can enjoy for their self-care. I want you to think about the evolution of your self-care. So if you still got that gym membership and ain't been to the gym yet, that's an example. Okay, I'm done. I'm not gonna say nothing else. All right, what else?
Dr. Branch, on behalf of CSI and the MACC program and everybody who's here with us tonight who's going to watch the recording of this fantastic talk, thank you so much. I hope you were able to keep up with some of the comments in the chat. There's just a lot of gratitude. This is what we needed, right? We needed this. For those of you where it's a little bit of a refresher, or if this is new, we got some juicy nuggets to chew on. I know I'm leaving with a whole lot of stuff to think about and try. Can't wait to have some fun and do something new and different and get out of the comfort zone. So thank you so much, Dr. Branch. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. We want to wish you all a great afternoon, evening, wherever you are, whatever coast, whatever part of the US you are. Enjoy the rest of your day. And then the CSI team we'll hang out a little bit longer together to spend some time with Dr. Branch. But thank you everyone for being here today.
Thank you, CSI. Thank you, Dr. Branch.